You're listening to Overhead Story Channel. Enjoy.
It started like any other quiet morning, no warning, no gut feeling, no storm clouds overhead. Just me, a cup of lukewarm coffee, and the hum of the dishwasher in the background. Chloe had already left for work, and I was sitting at the kitchen table flipping through our shared tablet, trying to find the banana bread recipe she swore was life-changing. It's funny how the smallest things can change everything. I wasn't snooping. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking. My thumb just slid a little too far in the photo gallery, and that's when I saw it, a single image that hit me like a punch I didn't see coming. There she was. Chloe. Smiling that soft, private smile she used to save for me, the one I hadn't seen in a while. She looked comfortable. Glowing almost. And right beside her was a man I didn't recognize. He was leaning into her space like he belonged there, like this wasn't the first time. His hand rested, not drifted, not grazed, but rested on her thigh. Not near it. On it. Firm. Familiar. They were sitting at a little outdoor cafe, the kind with plants hanging off the awning and chipped tables that were trying to be vintage. I didn't recognize it. We'd never been there. And Chloe wasn't dressed for a casual outing. She had makeup on, her nails freshly done, and she was wearing the gold necklace I bought her for our anniversary last year. The one she never wore anymore because she said it tangled too easily. My first thought wasn't anger. It was confusion. A strange, icy stillness crept over me. I stared at the photo longer than I should have, hoping for some context that never came. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe the world wasn't about to tilt on its axis. But deep down I knew. I took a *T. Not out of pettiness, I just didn't want to gaslight myself later. I needed proof that this wasn't in my head, that what I saw was real. I told myself I wouldn't jump to conclusions, wouldn't make a scene. I needed to hear what she had to say. That night, after dinner, a chicken stir-fry, one of the 3 meals she still bothered to cook, I pulled up the photo on my phone and showed it to her across the couch. I didn't say anything dramatic. Just, hey, what's this? She looked at it for barely a second. Her expression didn't flicker, didn't falter. She just tilted her head and let out a light, almost amused breath. Oh, that's just Jeremy from the old marketing team. We ran into each other last month. That's not what it looks like, Ethan. Not what it looks like. Isn't it always? I asked her where the cafe was. She said it was somewhere in Midtown. Said Jeremy had just gone through a breakup and really needed to talk. She made it sound like she was doing him a favor. That hand on her thigh? Bad angle, she said. Totally innocent. She even joked about how I was always so intense about this kind of stuff. Then, before I could even process, she pivoted. She said the fact I would question her like this without trusting her word said more about me than it did about her. That we talked about this before. That I had insecurity issues I needed to work on. That she couldn't live in a relationship where she constantly felt interrogated. I just sat there and listened. My heart was pounding in my ears, but my face stayed neutral. I nodded. Said okay. Said yeah, maybe I need to think about that. But the entire time something inside me was unspooling, quietly, steadily. See, I've never been the paranoid type. If anything, I used to give her too much benefit of the doubt. I believe people meant well. I believe Chloe meant well. We'd been together 9 years, 5 married, and I always figured that meant something. That we had a kind of trust that didn't need monitoring. But something about that photo and the way she handled it felt off. It wasn't just the hand or the angle. It was the ease in her tone. The way she didn't miss a beat. The way she flipped the whole thing around like she'd done it before. Like she was prepared. That's what got me. She didn't ask me how I found the photo. Didn't get nervous. Didn't even look mad, just disappointed, like a teacher scolding a student for not trusting the lesson plan. And that's when it really hit me. She wasn't surprised because she didn't feel guilty. Or if she did, she'd already made peace with it. She didn't react like someone caught off guard, she reacted like someone who expected to be confronted eventually and had already practiced her lines. After that night, I didn't bring it up again. Didn't pry. Didn't accuse. But I started watching. I started noticing the little things. Her sudden insistence on locking her phone when she used to leave it face up on the table. The shift in her wardrobe, how she went from sweats and messy buns to lip gloss and styled hair just for errands. The way she began lingering in the car for a few extra minutes when she got home, always just finishing a podcast. The uptick in girls' nights, the sudden overnights at Claire's place, the muted text notifications. None of it screamed betrayal on its own. But when stacked together, those pieces formed something I couldn't ignore. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was alert, the way a dog gets before a storm. That low, restless kind of energy that tells you something's coming and you better not pretend it's not. I wish I could say I confronted her again. That I put my foot down. That I demanded the truth. But the truth is, I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. Something about the way she looked at me that night with calm superiority, like I was just being dramatic, it made me doubt myself. Just enough. And that scared me. Because if I couldn't trust my own gut, what else had I already missed? So I kept quiet. I smiled when she walked through the door. I kissed her cheek when she said she was heading out. I played my part. But behind the scenes, I started keeping receipts. *TS. Notes. Patterns. I wasn't going to accuse her again, not without proof. Not this time. That photo became my compass. The quiet shift. The beginning of the end, though I didn't know it yet. It was the moment I stopped being the trusting husband and started being the observer. The archivist. The man who once gave her his whole heart, now building a case to take it back. And she never even noticed. That photo didn't just change the way I looked at Chloe. It changed the way I remembered her. It was like someone had handed me a new lens and told me to replay the last 2 years of our marriage, only this time, look closer. Don't blink. Don't excuse anything. What once felt like forgettable quirks or harmless inconsistencies now looked like breadcrumbs. And I followed them. I started with the overnights. She'd never been big on sleepovers before, not even with her best friends. She was always the I need my own bed type. But suddenly last year, those weekends started showing up. Girls' weekend at Megan's. Wine night turned into movie night at Claire's. The names rotated, the stories shifted slightly, but the one constant was how vague everything became. I used to take her word for it because why wouldn't I? But now, with the photo burned into the back of my brain, I couldn't stop myself from revisiting the little details. Like the fact that she could never remember what they ate. Not once. I'd ask simple things, did you guys cook or order in? Or how was brunch? And she'd shrug or give a non-answer like, oh, we just kind of grazed all night. But Chloe loved food. She used to take pictures of every meal, talk about every ingredient. When did that change? Then there was her phone. We used to share everything. She'd text in front of me, even ask me to reply for her sometimes. Her phone used to live on the coffee table, unlocked, buzzing with group chats I could read from across the room. But that started to shift about 9 months ago. First it was small, a new passcode because of work. Then always keeping it face down. Then taking it with her even to the bathroom. I remember the first time I noticed it and laughed, asking, what, are you afraid I'll read your shopping list? She smiled but didn't laugh with me. The way she used to say, it's not about hiding anything, started to sound more like a deflection than a reassurance. Then there was her appearance. Look, I loved Chloe no matter what she looked like. She wasn't a high-maintenance person, never cared for makeup, preferred comfy jeans to dresses. But that changed too. Out of nowhere, she became obsessed with skincare routines, hair masks, new lipstick shades. She started buying perfume again, not the one I loved on her, but something floral and sharp that I never complimented, and she never asked if I liked. She told me it made her feel confident. I didn't push. But it wasn't just the looks. It was how selective her attention became. There were days I'd get home from work and she'd be completely absorbed in her phone, giggling softly at some private joke I wasn't part of. I'd ask what was funny and she'd just say, nothing, just stupid stuff in the group chat. And then there was the trunk. A few months ago, I was loading groceries into her car while she was inside the store. When I opened the trunk, I saw a shopping bag tucked in the corner, high-end boutique branding, neatly packed, untouched. Inside was a silk blouse, a men's cologne box still sealed, and a small velvet box that looked like it held jewelry. I didn't open it. I just stared at it for a few seconds, not sure if I was the one who was crossing a line or if the line had been moved without me realizing. When she came back, I asked casually what the bag was. Oh, that? It's for the women's shelter. We're putting together gift packages. I nodded. I even said, that's really thoughtful. But my stomach was doing somersaults. Chloe didn't do charity shopping trips. She donated things, sure, but this was deliberate. Pricey. Gift-wrapped. And she hadn't mentioned it before. I let it slide, not because I believed her, but because I wasn't ready to admit what I already knew. The truth was sinking in like slow poison. Not all at once, but in waves. I'd remember a moment from 6 months ago and suddenly see it differently. Like how she flinched when I reached for her phone on the nightstand even though I was just moving it to charge mine. Or how she started going for walks around the block after dinner, something she never used to do, and would come back 20 minutes later flushed and smiling, holding her phone like it had just told her a secret. One night, she left her laptop open in the kitchen. It was locked, but I noticed something that chilled me. The email tab showed unread messages from a name I didn't recognize. Just a first name. No subject lines. And she never mentioned him. I didn't try to hack into it. I told myself I wasn't that kind of person. But I took a picture of the screen just in case. Then came the salons. Chloe had always been low-key with her hair. Maybe a trim once every few months. But suddenly she was getting blowouts, highlights, facials. Every other weekend. She said she just felt like refreshing her look. And I wanted to believe that. I really did. But she never asked me what I thought of it. Never once looked at me and said, "Do you like it?" Because it wasn't for me. I think we both knew that. The more I watched, the more I saw. Like how she started changing clothes when she came home, switching from jeans and heels into sweats before she even kissed me hello. Like the way she'd smile at something on her phone while cooking, then quickly put it away when I walked into the room. Or how she'd start arguments about the smallest things, toothpaste caps, laundry piles, and storm out to get space, only to return hours later acting like nothing had happened. She was building a second life. And I'd been asleep at the wheel for months. It wasn't just the big things. It was the collection of small inconsistencies. Patterns I had ignored. Details I had dismissed. At the time, they didn't seem like anything. But now every memory came back with sharper contrast. I remembered one night, maybe 4 months ago. She was in the shower when her phone buzzed twice. I glanced at it out of instinct, not snooping, just reacting. The notification was a text, but the name was saved as just an emoji. A single flame. I remember freezing, staring at it. She came out moments later, hair wet, towel wrapped around her, and saw me standing there. "You okay?" she asked. I lied. Said I was looking for my charger. She smiled. Kissed my cheek. Picked up the phone, saw the screen, and turned it over without reacting. I should have said something. I didn't. Back then, I still had hope. Still thought if I loved her enough, trusted her enough, she'd find her way back. But that photo had flipped a switch in me. I wasn't desperate anymore. I wasn't begging for clarity. I was gathering evidence. Every suspicious moment was another pin on the map. Every excuse became a red flag. And the more I saw, the more I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overthinking. I had just been willfully blind, too in love, too naive, too loyal. And she had known it. I stopped asking questions after that. I stopped giving her opportunities to twist things. I smiled when she came home late. I nodded when she said she was going to help a friend move. I kissed her goodnight even when I could smell a different cologne clinging faintly to her jacket. Because I wasn't looking for closure anymore. I was waiting for confirmation. I didn't know when it would come. But I knew it was coming. And when it did, I'd be ready. It happened on a Thursday. Cold, gray, forgettable, the kind of day no one would think twice about unless they were living it like I was. The kind where the sky presses down on your shoulders and the air feels too still. I remember because I left work early for the first time in months and I didn't tell anyone why. Something in me had shifted, not in anger, but in readiness. After weeks of collecting quiet moments, of stringing together lies and inconsistencies like lights on a wire, I realized I was done waiting. I wasn't going to snoop or trap or stalk. But I wasn't going to be passive anymore either. I just needed to catch one moment as it truly was, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. I didn't need confrontation. I needed confirmation. So I came home early. The driveway was empty. No Chloe. The porch light was off. The blinds were drawn in the living room, which was strange because she always liked leaving them open to let the light in. She said it made the house feel warm. I let myself in quietly. No alarms, no dramatic thoughts. I wasn't expecting anything cinematic. I just thought maybe I'd catch her before she left for wherever she always claimed to be. But the house wasn't empty. The first thing I noticed was her purse on the hallway table. The second was the faint scent of that same sharp floral perfume lingering in the air mixed with something else. Cologne. Not mine. I froze at the foot of the stairs. There was a light on upstairs. Just one. It cast a warm amber glow across the landing and beneath it, I heard something. Not loud. Just human. Voices muffled. A man's low tone. A woman's soft laugh. Her laugh. It wasn't the kind of laughter you share over a joke or a movie. It was close. An asterisk mate. Familiar. It sounded like something I hadn't heard in our house for a long time. I moved slowly. Not like I was trying to sneak, more like I didn't trust my legs to carry me. Every step up the staircase felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I wasn't even sure what I'd do when I got to the top. Knock? Burst in? Walk away? But I didn't do any of those things. I stopped just outside our bedroom door. It was open just a crack, wide enough to hear, but not see. I didn't need to see. My mind filled in the rest, and frankly, it was too vivid already. I stood there and listened. I heard her say his name, Brandon. That name. The one I'd seen on her phone once, half covered by her hand when she quickly told me it was a guy from her co-working space. The one she claimed she barely talked to. He had a voice that grated under my skin, overly casual, too at home. They weren't doing anything loud. There was no chaos. Just low, easy conversation. The kind of conversation you only have when you've dropped your guard with someone, when you've already crossed every boundary and now there's no reason to pretend. He was telling her about something that had happened at a bookstore, laughing at his own story. She laughed too. Then she said something about how good it was to just relax without judgment. That one hit me in the chest. I felt my jaw tighten, but I didn't move. I pulled my phone out and hit record. Not because I wanted to blackmail her, not because I planned to use it against her, but because I needed a way to prove to myself that I hadn't imagined any of it. That if I ever started doubting what I heard, I'd have it solid, permanent, real. They weren't just talking. They were living a version of life that had no room for me in it. The ** Macy wasn't in what they were doing. It was in the way she spoke. Her tone. Her rhythm. It was like she was breathing differently, like the woman I knew didn't exist in that room anymore. There was no tension in her voice, no careful phrasing. Just comfort. That was the worst part. I didn't stay long. I didn't need to. I backed away, slowly, silently, my hands ice cold and my heart not quite broken because I think it had already been cracked for weeks and this was just the finishing blow. Downstairs, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even sit down. I just grabbed my coat, walked out the front door, and got into my car. I drove 3 blocks away, pulled into the parking lot of an empty strip mall, and just sat there. It started raining. Not hard. Just enough for the water to beat up on the windshield, blurring everything. I turned off the engine. Just let the silence settle in around me like a second skin. I stared at my hands on the steering wheel and thought, so this is it. Not a dramatic climax. Not a discovery that changes everything. Just the confirmation of what I'd already known. Chloe was gone. Or at least, the version of her I married was. This other woman, this version with soft laughs and secret voices and perfume I never liked, I didn't know her. And she didn't know me anymore either. I slept in the car that night. I didn't plan to, I just couldn't go back inside. I watched the sky turn from gray to black to the pale blue of morning. My back ached. My eyes felt like they were coated in sand. But I felt oddly clear. Like the fog had finally lifted. When the sun came up, I drove to work, showered at the gym there, and started my day like nothing had happened. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't text her. I didn't even check the security camera I'd installed on the front porch. I didn't want to know if she saw my car was gone. I didn't want to hear whatever story she'd come up with to explain where Brandon went after he slipped out. None of it mattered anymore. What mattered was that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't jealous or insecure or controlling. I was right. And now I had a choice to make. Stay and rot in a house filled with lies and lavender-scented laundry, or leave before I lost whatever pieces of myself were still intact. I chose silence. No confrontation. No screaming match. No cheating scene with shattered glass or slammed doors. I started planning my exit like a man packing for war, careful, measured, methodical. I would leave just as quietly as she drifted away from me. And when I did, she wouldn't even realize what she'd lost until long after I was gone. But I wasn't there yet. I still had to sleep in the same bed a few more nights. Still had to look her in the eye and pretend I didn't know. Still had to hear her say, "Love you," with a voice that didn't belong to me anymore. Because if I was going to walk away, I wanted it to be clean. Thought out. I didn't want to give her any reason to twist the story. She would say I left out of nowhere. She would say I was distant. She would say I gave up. But I knew better. I had the photo. I had the recording. I had every half-truth, every calendar lie, every late night wrapped up in perfume and guilt she didn't bother to carry. And soon I'd have a new life, one where I wouldn't have to question what love looked like anymore. It's strange how quickly you can go from living to observing. From being in your own story to watching it like a rerun you've already memorized. That's what the house became for me after that Thursday night, not a home, but a set. A stage. I knew the lines, knew the cues. But I wasn't playing the part anymore. I was planning my exit. At first, Chloe didn't notice anything. That was the most damning part. She didn't ask why I was quieter at dinner. She didn't question why I stopped touching her shoulder when I passed behind her or why I started sleeping closer to the edge of the bed. She didn't even blink when I stopped asking where she was going. Maybe she thought I'd given up, or maybe she was just too wrapped up in her own version of reality to care. But I noticed everything. I noticed how her showers got longer. How she smiled at her phone more often. How she started humming again softly to herself like she was living a private soundtrack I wasn't invited to hear. Her eyes didn't meet mine anymore, and when they did, it was in brief glances, like someone glancing across the room at a stranger who looks vaguely familiar. I started with the essentials. I opened a separate bank account, small at first, just enough to move my paycheck over without raising alarms. I used my work address for the correspondence, kept the card in my office drawer. Next came the apartment. I found one 6 miles away, a modest one-bedroom above a bookstore. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The landlord didn't ask many questions, and I paid the deposit in cash from savings I'd quietly withdrawn over several weeks. The first time I stepped into it, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. The walls were bare, the windows dusty, the kitchen outdated. But I stood there with the key in my hand and thought, this is freedom. No lies, no tension, no one pretending. Then came the digital cleanup. I changed the passwords to my personal accounts, email, cloud storage, even the old Spotify account we used to share. I ordered new credit cards. I started moving documents out of the house little by little: birth certificate, passport, social security card. One at a time, tucked into the laptop bag I carried daily. Chloe never asked. Why would she? At night, I made copies of everything: bank statements, text message logs, phone records. I pulled the audio file from the night I stood outside the bedroom door and saved it on a flash drive. I wasn't even sure I'd need it. It wasn't about revenge or leverage. It was about certainty. Proof, if only for myself. I booked the moving truck for a Wednesday morning when I knew she'd be out. She had her usual yoga class, then lunch with Maddie, which I now understood meant anything but lunch or Maddie. I planned it down to the hour. My friend Marcus helped. Didn't ask questions. Just showed up with a truck and a quiet nod that said, "I've got you." The night before I left, I made her favorite dinner, pesto pasta with garlic bread and a bottle of wine we'd been saving. I don't know why. Maybe to give her a memory that felt soft. Or maybe I just needed one last reminder of who I used to be before all this started. She was surprised, said it was sweet. And for a moment she looked at me like she used to. I wondered if she could tell I was saying goodbye. That night, I slept next to her like I had for 5 years. Barely touching, barely breathing. When she rolled away in her sleep, I stared at the ceiling and thought, tomorrow, this ends. In the morning, I got up early and didn't wake her. I made coffee, washed my mug, took one last look at the living room, the photos on the walls, the little notes she used to leave in my lunchbox back when we still meant something to each other. Then I placed 3 things on the kitchen counter: my house key, a flash drive, and an envelope. Inside the envelope was everything: the photo from the tablet, a printed transcript of the recording from that Thursday, the name and address of the apartment I'd rented. Not for her to come find me, but so she'd know I hadn't disappeared. There was also the first page of a property division agreement, signed by me and prepped by my lawyer, listing only what I intended to walk away with: my half of the savings, the car, and nothing else. No revenge, no mess, just facts, clean lines. When I walked out of the house, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel anything, just a weight leaving my body, inch by inch. The apartment smelled like paint and dust. I unpacked slowly. Clothes, books, camera, laptop. I left the boxes half full. It didn't feel like settling, just pausing, like I was giving myself a chance to restart one breath at a time. That afternoon, Chloe texted, "Where are you? Did you take your stuff? Ethan, what is going on? What is this flash drive?" Then silence. No calls. No threats. Just space. A few days later, a text came through from a number I didn't recognize. "Brandon, I think we should talk. Please." I didn't respond. The days passed slowly after that. Mornings were quiet. I worked, came home, made grilled cheese, listened to music. I went to the bookstore below my apartment and bought a second-hand copy of Into the Wild. I reread old journal entries, ones I'd forgotten I wrote. Entries where I talked about how Chloe made me feel like I could be more than I was. Back when we were still honest. Back when we still shared everything. I stopped wondering what she was doing. Letting go wasn't dramatic. It wasn't heroic. It was just quiet. A choice you make, then keep making every day. Every time I saw an old mug she left behind in one of my boxes. Every time I opened a drawer and found a note she'd written long ago. I didn't throw those things out. I just let them sit there until they stopped hurting. One Sunday, a mutual friend reached out. He said Chloe had been weird lately, said she told people I'd moved out, suddenly, like she was blindsided. I didn't correct him. Let her tell whatever version helped her sleep. I wasn't here to ruin her reputation, just to reclaim mine. Eventually, I blocked her number. I saved our old wedding photos to a hard drive and tucked it in the back of my closet. Not because I wanted to hold on, but because I didn't want to pretend the good times didn't exist. They did. They were real. They just weren't the whole story. I started walking in the evenings. No destination. Just quiet sidewalks and the sound of my own thoughts. I passed houses that looked like the one we used to live in. I didn't envy them. I just felt detached, like I was watching the world go on without needing to chase it. One night, I passed by a couple laughing on their porch, wrapped in blankets and cheap wine. The way they leaned into each other, unself-conscious and safe, it hit me in a strange way. Not sad. Not jealous. Just distant. That used to be us. But that was another life. And mine finally was starting over. I didn't expect to hear about Brandon again. After I walked away, I assumed they'd slip into whatever life they had, waiting dinners at trendy restaurants, Sunday hikes for Instagram, the kind of pseudo-romantic rhythm that always burns bright before it burns out. I pictured them laughing at how easily I'd let go, how chill I'd been, how quickly Chloe could erase one life and paint on another. I thought maybe that was the end of it. But people talk. A few months after I moved into the apartment, I ran into Mark, an old mutual acquaintance. We hadn't spoken in years, but there was a familiarity there, someone who knew both me and Chloe, but not well enough to pick a side. We exchanged small talk, jobs, weather, how time flies. Then he said, "Hey, weird question, do you still talk to Brandon?" I paused. "No." "Why?" He gave a dry laugh. "Yeah. Figured. He's been kind of spiraling." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Mark went on, the way people do when they have something juicy and need an outlet. I ran into him at a bar downtown. He looked rough. Not just tired like worn. Said he'd been having a hard time. Said he'd been duped. His word, not mine. Talked about Chloe like she was this force of nature he didn't know how to contain. Drama, late nights, fights over nothing. Apparently she's moved in, but she's not really there. If that makes sense. It did. Too much sense. I nodded and offered a vague, polite response. I hope he figures it out. Mark smiled uncomfortably, like he realized he may have crossed a line. Yeah, anyway. Good seeing you, man. That night, I sat on my couch in the apartment, lights off, a glass of whiskey sweating in my hand, and thought about what Brandon must be going through. And I realized I didn't feel satisfaction. Not really. I felt clarity. He wasn't the enemy. He wasn't the cause. He was just the symptom of something I hadn't wanted to admit, that Chloe had stopped being happy long before he came around, and she wasn't the type to sit in silence. She needed noise. Movement. An audience. And when things got quiet with me, she found someone else to fill the silence. I just happened to be the one holding the door when she walked out. But the thing about people like Chloe is that the noise never stops. And when the high fades, the person left behind starts to realize they weren't the partner, they were the distraction. The thrill. The temporary fix. I didn't reach out to Brandon. There was nothing I needed from him. But it didn't stop the updates. 2 weeks later, another message came through, this time from Rachel, one of Chloe's old friends who used to pretend to like me. Her tone was careful, almost surgical. "Hey Ethan, sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know that Brandon reached out to me. Said things with Chloe have gotten unstable. He's been venting to anyone who'll listen. I know it's not your problem anymore, but I figured you'd want to know. Hope you're doing okay." I didn't reply. I stared at the message for a while, then muted the thread. The next day, I found a voicemail on my phone. A number I didn't recognize. Male voice. Hesitant. "Hey, this is Brandon. I know this is probably the last thing you want, and I get it, man. I don't know who else to talk to. Things aren't what I thought they'd be. She's different now. Or maybe she was always like this and I just didn't see it. I guess. I thought I was stepping into something better. But I think I just stepped into the same storm, only this time, I'm the one getting soaked." He didn't call again. I deleted the voicemail without responding. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't going to be his lifeline either. If Chloe had taught him anything, it was that some doors aren't meant to be walked through, and some people aren't built for peace. The weeks after that were quiet. I focused on work. I redecorated the apartment, bought a used bike, started going to the lake on Sundays. I began to feel like myself again. Not the version I had become near the end of our marriage, always anxious, always second-guessing, but the version from before. The one who laughed easily, who slept without checking shadows. Then one night, Marcus, the same friend who helped me move out, texted me a *T of a Reddit post someone had forwarded him. The username was anonymous, the story vague, but the details were unmistakable. Thought I had found the one. Turns out I was just the next escape hatch. She's beautiful, smart, captivating, but she lives in extremes. She's either all in or completely gone. I tried to help her heal. I tried to be the guy she needed, but now I'm just tired, drained, lost. She's not who I thought she was. The replies were brutal. Some told him to run. Some told him he deserved it for messing with a married woman. One even said, "You can't fix someone who enjoys the chaos more than the calm." I didn't comment. I didn't share it. I just saved the *T in a folder labeled unnecessary but honest. Because that's what it was, unnecessary but honest. I never wanted to see Brandon fall apart. I didn't need him to suffer. But there was something in watching the aftermath unfold that gave me a strange kind of closure. Not joy, not revenge, just the quiet confirmation that I hadn't been the problem all along. Chloe didn't want stability. She wanted intensity, and intensity doesn't last. It burns, fast and hot, and leaves nothing but ash behind. I heard rumors after that, Chloe couch hopping for a while, Brandon moving back in with a friend, one of her co-workers quitting suddenly. But by then, I had stopped keeping track. Whatever fallout they were facing, it wasn't mine to clean up. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the one left behind. I felt like the one who got out.